Welcome, I'm Ben. In this tutorial, we're going to be designing smaller characters, going through my process, how I sketch, how I plan, start to finish. There will be a bunch of sketches, and in the end, hopefully you come away with some good tips and advice. Let's go ahead and make a new layer, or we can make a few layers. If you use Shift N, you can quickly make a bunch of layers. Let's do step number one, and that's doing silhouettes. And an important part about just getting a silhouette down is getting a strong silhouette. So let's just take one of these colors. I'm going to take this one here. We can always switch it. And let's just start building shapes. And a little thing I like to do for this is mix up. Say shape one has small head, got big body and legs or something. And this is going to be quick designs and just bouncing off of ideas. And they might not look too good, but let's say big head, big body, small legs. And then you can do the opposite, big head, medium body, medium legs. And something I like to do with these designs right away is add a shadow. So we'll make a shadow layer down here, and then we're going to use the build circle tool over here, and I'm just going to fill in some shadows here, and you can do it however you want based on your perspective, but that right there just gives it a lot more. And then you can just continue to mess around with these shapes and figure out the sizes that you like. What is this guy gonna be? We're not sure. Talked about having those flying daggers all around, so let's add some of those. Maybe this one at the back is a bit smaller, so they're behind them, and just shape these now. Shape it a bit more, figure out what works. And again, it's not going to look like much unless you have this killer silhouette, and that's the whole goal, is just to figure out shapes, trying to figure out what you think might look good. You know, maybe this guy has some creepiness going on here. He's floating. He's got some holes in his robe here. That's cool, and that took a whole few seconds, and like I said, this wasn't even part of it. I just went with it, and it's an idea, and it's so far my favorite idea. And that wasn't even in my initial design. And I'm using the contour tool, so that's when you draw, it just fills in. I like using that for designs a lot of the time. I also use the paintbrush quite a bit. So let's do weird shapes here, and let's see if we can get something we like, something we can use in the end. I do also love doing those little kind of challenges, which might be cool if you haven't done it, but basically you just scribble and try to make something from it. So let's, on the next design, we'll do that without the idea. Do this, something floating around this guy's head, little hole or halo, if I could get it right, kind of like a Demento from Harry Potter. Again, the floatiness, avoiding the legs, could be cool, but is it a relic kind of boss type? I don't know. This guy's a bit bigger, but let's do the kind of arms coming out too. Maybe this guy can be floating as well. I think I want to avoid legs just because the other two guardians, well, the crab had 4 legs and the other one had 2. So I think it'd be cool to have a floating guardian. I think that's my goal. And a big reason is it's easier to animate. And I've been a little short on time, so animating is something I need to treat carefully. Instead of big or small daggers, we can have bigger kind of sword. Maybe that sword has a face itself. Again, that's just an idea I just thought of right now. Maybe it's a little skull sword. Maybe he summons skull swords. So again, just branching off these ideas. And I said a while ago I would do the messy thing. And basically, you just you scribble something and then you make it something. And that might be more in the adding some shading, but let's see what we can make out of it. So I'm just scribbling, and you can see it has some sort of potential there. I had contiguous checked off, but you can see it has a little bit of potential. I'm going to move this layer in the middle, so when we do start adding shading and details, we have some layers above and some layers below. And this is just what can you see in this design. And he kind of looks, I could see some potential. I do like this. And that was just a little scribble. A thicker floating entity. We're just building off that. do like that. Maybe you can add some armor with the cloak. I have ideas for this one. I have ideas for this one as well. Not so sure about this one, although I like floating dagger idea. And we could just simply copy these over here. Let's do a couple more and see what we can do. Maybe there's 3 heads going, skulls, and again with the floating cloaks, because I think that's my goal. Give those eyes, give some kind of, maybe the daggers are a little bit twisted. So I do like that shape of a dagger. Go ahead and grab it, copy and paste it on this side, and maybe paste one in the back. That's pretty cool design as well. I think one thing is making them feel like a guardian though. So I think that will come with the shading and adding details later on. So how many designs do we have? Are we in love with any of these? Oh, I think I did. No, everything's on the correct layer, which is nice. So am I in love with any of these? I think I like these last 2 quite a bit. So I think let's explore. We've done 6 and you can always do more. This honestly, it takes 10 minutes and I might not end with these, but this tutorial is just figuring out. I might not animate these, but just figuring out ideas. Taking the time, because this is the most important step. Once you have the character and you can start animating it, it's basically you got your move, idle, and attacks and whatnot. So this is pretty crucial, is picking the right character. And I don't want to do a 5-hour tutorial and end up picking something we don't like. So I want to go through the process regardless if it's not the character I want in the end, but we'll still try to make it as cool as possible. We've done our silhouette. We've done 6 silhouettes. Again, I recommend doing 12, 18 if you want. It doesn't take too long. So let's start doing some shading. And this is step 2. And in step 2, let's try to use 2 shades. We'll say max for the most part. And I call this the subtle shading. So let's start with this fellow here. So I'm actually gonna move everything up a bit, give us a bit more space. And I'm gonna do a row of kind of this guy. And we can even make this a bit bigger. So I'll probably do a row of figuring out shades and stuff with a few of them. And this is where you start to see, I'm gonna copy this guy, you start to see the character start to come to life a bit more. So let's use a dark color. So we'll use this one, I believe. I'm gonna use D again, and I'm actually gonna go to layer 7 and go lock alpha. And what that does is wherever you draw, it's not gonna go out of that line of anything on this layer. So we can draw all we want and it just stays on anything on that layer. So let's say the light's coming from this side, or we should probably keep it consistent. And yeah, the light can come from this side, and just do some subtle thing. I'm gonna figure out what direction this guy should go in. Maybe there's some cracks, and you don't need to be restrained. You can go out, you can turn off lock alpha, and you can draw, turn off lock alpha, and you can draw, you can add to it, and you can change the shape of this. Let's add maybe something in his eye, and that looks pretty cool. Again, we didn't do much, but it adds quite a bit to this character. What am I doing? I'm trying to figure out what's going on here. Keeps drawing up there. We don't want auto select on. Disable snap to grid. So I had snap to grid on, and it was giving me some issues. So just like that, we've added a bit of life to this character. Maybe these guys are like little balls that follow him around, and we can even mess with these little daggers. I do this guy, he's creepy. These daggers could be this color. We're adding a bit more to the shading, but okay. So he looks pretty cool. I like this dude quite a bit. Let's see what we can do with this guy. Over here, grab his shadow as well. The shadows just add quite a bit to it. And let's do the same thing. We can almost just copy, paste these over. This one here. There, we can go on each eye. Got the darker one. And then I'm gonna highlight that. And this will work the same as kind of lock alpha did. And we will hit the D tool, or we'll grab eyedropper, grab this color, D, and then let's do the same thing. Maybe some under this guy's eye. And again, that's pretty quick because we know the process. And I like both of these. They look like some kind of sister and brother entities or something. Let's mess around with this guy as well. So copy and paste him, and copy and paste this shadow. I'm gonna move it a little bit. Maybe just take this one, So this guy's pretty cool as well. So let's just add an eye. So eye is a single, maybe these things like they were before. And again, we'll select that. Use the eyedropper tool and just get the shadow down here. I keep hitting disable to grid for some reason. My hotkeys are not as dialed in as they should be. Still maybe a little bit. And these are just rough kind of shadings to get an idea. And that looks pretty cool as well. Maybe perhaps this guy he's holding a sword. Here the sword is chopped up. It'd even be like a bone sword. You grab those bone colors from up here and then grab. I did this on the layer below, so we can move it if we have to. It doesn't fit as much, but it's an idea. It's an idea, so let's just keep it in there. And we can we'll save this for step 4 or 5, one of the later ones. I do think the sword might look cool, or just this purple a little bit, but we'll keep it as is for now. Let's do a couple more. Let's do this guy here. He looks cool. I think we can have some fun with him. And let's grab a shadow. Those initial shadows, I don't think the perspectives are a little bit off there, but that's okay. So let's do the eye color. Maybe this guy's more guardian-like, because we know we got the double slash there. This guy has a single one. So maybe this one has 3, but this kind of sideways. And I do like the thought of having these kind of like eyeballs on the ends of these. Cool. And maybe we'll explore that sword kind of having base or something. So again, let's do some shading, and the shading doesn't need to be perfect. Make it as good as you can, but don't spend too much time. There's a good chance we don't even spend any time on the character afterwards. And especially with this guy, I don't think we'll choose him. He's cool, but I don't think he's my favorite. So let's grab this color. This can be a little less shaded, especially on the top here. So not my favorite, but still cool. If I had to pump out a bunch of characters, maybe he would make it if I was in a tight situation. But this is pretty cool. Little sword's pretty cool. Copying that, see how it looks twisted. I like it like a little jaded a bit more. Maybe there's one up over here. And we can always add little tiny shadows for these. I think Shift U is the tool we want. Yep. So that, it is cool. It has potential, but I think I like all 3 of these ones more than this guy. I think if we cleaned up his shape, maybe we'll do some cleanup afterwards. But yeah, this is the subtle shading, and we're still gonna explore a bit more. I think we're gonna take a couple of these and kind of do some variations of them. And at this point, so step 3, is when I start thinking about the animations more. And I think about what's easy to animate and what would be tedious and hard. And this is something, if I give this sheet, say I have 30 characters sketched out and I give it to a client and they're all different in body shapes and sizes and everything, I'll often tell them, hey, this guy is going to be fairly easy to animate and this guy is going to be a bit more tedious and harder. And a lot of times you charge a client by the hour, and that's a factor with their budget. So I'll tell them, hey, this guy's probably going to be quicker, might even look better. Easier, way easier on my end. And then this character, hey, this guy, it might not even look better. It might, but it's going to take a lot longer. So depending on what they want, that's the direction we choose. And as you animate more and more, you begin to realize what's easier to animate. So floating swords, easy, way easier than a boss with big arms holding the sword or a weapon. Floating swords can just move quickly. Turning them is easy. No legs makes it easier. So that's why this character I want to design with no legs. You have this little cloak here, but fairly easy to make it move unless it's really heavy winds, but we don't plan on doing that. And then, yeah, if you start adding capes or other details or things you need to animate, it's just going to become more and more difficult. And that doesn't mean you don't have to do it. It's just depending on your situation. If you have more time or you want to learn and practice those things, go ahead and do it. In this situation, I'm aiming to animate something on the easier side because I'm on a timeline, and this is what I've picked. So I've thought about it beforehand. So step 3, think about the animations. And that's why I went with no legs and the floating swords. And that's the direction I've picked. So now we thought about the animation, step 3. Step 4, pick a shaded silhouette and add some colors. So we've already added some colors but because we've only added one shade and then kind of the pink. So now we can explore a bit more colors, maybe adding armor on top of this dude or underneath his cloak. And we can shapeshift the silhouette and add some variations for it. So let's go ahead and do that now. So let's take this first guy. I think, oh, it's hard to choose which one I like more, but I think these two are the top. So let's go ahead and grab this guy, and we might end up doing rows because we're going to do hopefully a few variations of this guy and just see where he ends up. So this is the initial one. So let's go ahead and add another color, stronger color, which I think I grabbed the right same color. Let's pick this color and we'll go from there. All on the side here. That's the Apollo. Oh, I'm underneath, that's why. So let's see, and this might alter the shading in the end. We might end up shading more so on this side. So let's add some kind of shoulders there to make it look more like a guardian, perhaps. Maybe this goes all the way down here, and we can even maybe some kind of strap. I'm using a brown. And this is all part of the Apollo palette by Adam C. Yunus, I think. So when you grab a color from his palette, they generally work together. And this may look bigger, but I have the Dark Series palette, the Apollo palette, and my Stranded Series palette down here, which the Dark Series is all mine, and the Stranded is an alteration of another palette. It's far from the original, I believe, but it was from a palette, and the Apollo I don't touch. And they all kind of work well together. Not always, but if I grab this from the Stranded, it's gonna work well with the Apollo. It's just the palettes I tend to use. And we can always get a bit darker on that, or not. But that looks cool. Kind of like the direction of this. Even add a highlight. Maybe that's too much. And don't be afraid to add more colors as well to the palette. Palettes are generally just a baseline, and you can always branch off if you need to. That might be too much color for this character, but let's see how it ends up. Maybe we can add some little dots around. That looks cool too. I'm kind of digging the vibe of it all. Maybe this cape has some added color here, and it's a continuation on the shading. The shading's just a good starting baseline. So maybe we can add another kind of robe coming down here, and we're just slowly adding more colors to this character, and we can try to delete things, maybe make them a little less bulky, maybe add some holes in the back here, too much holes, and he's starting to look pretty cool. Maybe we can add a shade for this. It'd be too hard to see it unless we just do the whole side. So adding a bit more colors than I usually typically do, but I can always kind of descale the amount of colors I want later on. Maybe this needs to be a bit brighter. That one a bit brighter, this one too bright. Might be too bright. And maybe this has more, kind of showing more underneath. Maybe we just fill in this whole one. So it's like a cape on this side, and then we have cape in the middle. So you can see I kind of shifted the whole shading to this backside. Works better, and that's just something you learn. Let's open this up just one more, and that's cool. Maybe that's like some armor underneath. You can add this detail. Perhaps we open it up a bit more, expand his armor, and he's looking pretty cool. Let's start. So we've shifted a lot. Let's copy and paste him and kind of take some more riskier changes right now. And I like to do this here and there. It really can change the character, and sometimes in a far better way. So let's go ahead and, oops, make sure you're on the right layer. We're just going to delete this inside of here. Let's open this up one more time. I feel like we're just opening it up non-stop. And I want to grab some like soft skull colors. Let's grab this dark color. Maybe let's grab like this gray or brown. Might be too much. Just trying to find a good color. Maybe grab a darker version of this. Maybe that won't work. I was gonna add some skulls underneath, but I think it might look a bit odd because it's so dark already. Let's bring another kind of rope around here. Add a little light to that rope, and maybe even have it come over here. So it's like he's wrapped up or something. Kind of like he's strangled a bit. It might be cool to do the whole strangled across his face. That would be cool too. That would be an interesting pretty interesting character. And maybe this darkness goes everywhere. And then it's strangled. We can add the eye somehow. Eye poking out. I want it to feel like the eye, or sorry, the character's like struggling, like he's really trapped. Or maybe these little tiny things are his eyes, and we don't have an eye here, or we have a faded eye, but that's cool. Gotta make this mask a bit tighter. Maybe we'll add one more color on these kind of things. Kind of cool. I think potentially we add handles to these and see what that does. I think those fit in a little bit better. Those daggers do fit in a little tiny bit better. But let's copy and paste. So we have this kind of face guy. I don't know what I like better, but overall I don't mind. Let's try to squash this a bit. Just be loosey-goosey with it all. Let's put little sword legs. Pretty cool. I think it looks a bit cooler just floating around. Still looks cool. Let's try a mask. Maybe like remove the hood, just do like a mask. A mask always looks more guard-esque. Yeah, I think that might fit the vibe. Not that I like it the best, but it might fit the vibe the best. But I don't know yet. We can try different variations of, move him a bit over so we have some more space. And let's another shadow, another character. And let's go back to this original. Let's just kind of slap it over. And that's pretty cool. Maybe no floaty balls. Maybe the floaty daggers, and maybe this might change the vibe. It's too much. But let's try it out. Spikes. Maybe not spikes. Maybe always a fan of doing like chords. They get a bit more sci-fi. And the chords are fun to animate. That looks cool, actually. And I thought of a cool idea. Let's keep him, because I don't mind this armor here. Actually, I think this... Oops. Let's merge these layers. I think it's just that sword I had on it, which we're not going to use, so let's merge them up. Let's make this... I think that looks a bit better. Looks a little cleaner. And let's take this armor, highlight it all, Control U, and let's just darken it a little bit. Barely, maybe -4. So it just blends in a bit more. Maybe we can make a better mask. Okay, let's try one more, and then we can mess around with that guy as well, because we are an hour in, and I think it's the general idea. So we picked a shaded, we picked a shaded silhouette. We're adding some colors, and we jumped into step 5 without me saying it, but it's adding the final details, and that's like the wires, a new mask, and just figuring out the details. And it's just slowly manipulating the character, and you can see here how it's changed quite a bit. I don't know what one I like better. I think this suits the theme better with the Relic Guardians, but this one might be cooler. I'm not sure. So let's actually make this mask. Let's change this mask. How? I'm not sure yet. But I think he does need more cracks overall. His armor, maybe that just makes it cooler. And maybe some like cracks in this armor down here. So he looks a bit more worn out. I think that's a cool vibe. And maybe this head can be perhaps a flame, the relic head going on. So let's end this guy's kind of session, and let's just quickly see how we like this guy. I think they're my two favorite. So let's just add some color and some details to this fella. Control V, copy him down here. Then we'll grab the shadow. And this is the final step. I did have one more step I've written down, but it's not kind of part of the draw phase, but it's just setting up for the animation. So that would just be splitting the daggers on its own layer, the head, the armor, the robe, the orbs, everything on its own layer. So it's just easy for animation. And we won't get into that. We will instead just do another quick session of adding color and final details to this guy. And I usually take, if I'm working for a client, I'll probably do a bunch of silhouettes. Say we do 20 silhouettes. I will hand pick good 5, 6, 7, 8, and I will do some rough silhouette or shading to them. I might hand them to the client at that point and be like, what do you like best? This is what I like best. This is what I see working with animation. he'll pick theirs, and then hopefully we have a few characters, and then I'll start doing some final details like these. And looking at it, I do this last guy quite a bit. If I had to choose, I think I'd be picking to animate him. This guy might be better if we added the details to like the damage details and everything. But another cool thing is I could add a variation with this head and these orbs, and this guy as another part of the asset. So I have two variations. That's a bit more work, but might not be too much if you set it up properly. But let's just keep going. So let's experiment with adding a little bit of armor. I don't know, this guy's might be a little trickier than the first guy. We're probably going to change the shading altogether again. Have it same idea as the other one, because I kind of liked how that worked. And something that makes it easier the second time is we can take these colors and apply them as is. I apologize, I'm just getting over a little sickness, and it might be cool to, I'm actually going to just take those shading away. Again, it changes, but it's just to get a quick idea, especially if you're setting it to a client, just to get a quick idea of what the character could be, and hopefully they understand the detail is coming. Let's use these robes to do the tied up face thing, but with these guys, I think it might work better. But again, I don't know if it fits the overall vibe of the Guardian. Kind of just looks like someone being tortured, but it does look cool as a character. And sometimes, like, it's okay to waste time, even though it's not wasting time because you're gaining experience. But sometimes it's cool to keep these characters. I'm going for more of a bluey look here, but it's sometimes cool to keep these characters because you could always turn them into NPCs or characters throughout the game, like a merchant. Like this guy might end up being, if you take away the daggers, he could be like a cool merchant just floating around, and all you would need is an idle position or an idle animation. And I think I might plan for this guy to be a merchant of some sort because he has some potential. Perhaps there's some kind of orbs floating around him. Maybe there's one in the back over here. So some kind of orb dancer could be really cool. And that's what I mean by just drawing in general. Like you're just learning things as you go, getting new ideas and expanding on them. He's pretty cool. He could be a whole new enemy itself. So let's copy this base piece, move them over, and let's get rid of the orbs. And let's go another direction. Let's grab the shadow. And can you even try the daggers from these ones? And that looks pretty cool. Let's add some damage, some cracks and whatnot to this guy. It won't stand out as much, but it still looks pretty cool. Maybe mess with the eyes. The big eyes are cool, but sometimes the small ones look a little creepier. Maybe shift these ones. And I think I like that better, especially if it was a merchant. And you don't need to spend a lot of time on the designs. You can just copy and paste it. If you think that one has potential, go ahead and keep it and move on to the next one. Sometimes, I think I've shown off in streams or in other tutorials, but sometimes, like my design sketches, I think my Shogun Showdown sketches, I have so many of each character. We'll try the wire thing, because I liked how that worked out over there. And that looks pretty cool as well. And again, I just like the look of that. So I'll send it to the client. If this was for a client, this is for myself and for game assets. Maybe I'll ask the Discord which one they like best. I do think this is the one. This is the Guardian. This is a cool character nonetheless. We could either make this a merchant or just a character itself. So let's maybe, if this were to be a merchant, maybe we would expand, or rather take the character, just lower it, but instead of making it flat, like that would be pretty cool as well as a merchant. Again, I like it, so I'm going to copy and paste it and see what else we can do with it. So an hour and 7 minutes. I think by this point you should get the idea of the workflow, and you should be able to experiment. If you're doing this through Patreon, post your process, let us see, or let me see. I love checking it out and everything. I'm gonna try one more thing, kind of an addition layer. Kind of burning eyes might be cool. Maybe in that case we take away the cords, but that looks pretty cool as well. Mess around with the opacity, but overall this was a really good session. And this was an hour and 10 minutes. I would say this is successful. If you send this to the client, there's a good chance they'll be happy with it, and we can do another session with more and experiment more characters. So if you've made it this far, thank you so much. I'm pretty happy with this, and I will see you next time.